in respect for your evening and time, I want to make sure we start on time and try to finish on time. And so this evening, before we start, I wonder if there's more seats up here if anyone wants to sit down, or you're welcome to stay back there. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming out. Is there anyone here who has never been to one of my meetings before? And, oh, quite a few. Hi, thank you for coming. And is there anyone here who got a postcard to come here? So that's good. I wanted to let you guys know who received the postcard. We send out a block of postcards. We can only send out so many because of the FPPC rules. So we send a block out, and then when you come to the meeting, we let you know if you enjoyed it and felt it was worthwhile. You can sign up for my newsletter. It comes out once a month. The newsletter is hopefully short, sweet, and easy read. It's my way of reporting back to you and letting you know how I'm representing you. I'll talk sometimes about like if I voted for something or against something and why. And if you have feedback after that, I welcome feedback. I get a lot of feedback, both positive and negative, which is really appreciated because it lets me know how you guys feel. And so I'm going to pass these around. If you're already on the list, don't worry about signing it unless you have an updated email. And if you sign up for that newsletter, you'll get a notice about the... all three of you? Yeah. You guys probably know. So this evening, I wanted to, before we get started, I wanted to invite my District 4 team to come up to the front because I want to introduce you. I'm really excited. For those of you that weren't aware, we had a little bit of turnover in my office after the election. My chief of staff went with Assemblyman Hoover, who is a really good friend, and that was a wonderful opportunity for him. We had others. My secretary moved out of California. You know how people sometimes move out of California. Anyway, I have a new District 4 team, and they are every bit as awesome as the other team. My new Chief of Staff, Denisa Martian, and Forrest Johnson, Special Assistant, and Scott Borges, Special Assistant. So please welcome them. I know many of you have already been working with them. They're all over it. They're really good. So I'm really excited to have you guys, so thank you for being here. And they all took the time to be here because they look forward to meeting you in person. And I also wanted to see if there's anyone here who serves on a CPAC or a local board, or if you're an elected individual, or you serve on a board, or you're the director of the library. Stand up and just say your name and which board you serve on. I like people to see our leadership in the community.
I'm Bob Klaus. I serve on the cemetery board.
Thank you.
And he's also a big, huge, involved in the Grange. Yeah. Yes.
I'm Bruce Barber. I'm the grant supervisor here at the Orangevale Library.
And we have Barry Ross here, who's the director of the Orangevale Recreation and Park District.
Right.
And we don't have any board members, I guess, here. Or no?
No.
Okay.
None of my board members are here.
Yep.
I serve on the board of Orangevale Road.
Well, you better stand up and tell everyone.
I'm Katrina Womack.
And she's a super give back to the community and also a good friend of mine. So thank you,
I'm sorry,
Katrina.
what was your name? Katrina Womack. Thank you.
Okay, so, oh, yes.
Hi, I'm Brenda Everly. I'm the president of the local homeless assistance
Resource Team and a board member of the Community Foundation of Orangevale.
And Brenda is amazing. I want you guys to know that there's about 67 boards and commissions. If you're retired or have extra energy. Oh, we forgot, who's with the Orangevale History Project? Stand up. Yeah, that's super important.
The museum that's being built?
Mark Aaron with the president of the Orangevale History Project.
I'm Marilyn Edwards. I'm all around troublemaker.
David Dill with the History Project.
Thank you, guys. So, we have about 67 boards and commissions at the county, and so if you have a desire to serve in a leadership capacity, we're always looking for people. Does anything pop out in your mind, Scott? I think we need someone on the mental health board. There's several positions open.
And there's also the Orangevale CPAC. We have an opening.
Orangevale CPAC, yes.
Is area specific.
Yeah, so if you're interested, reach out to any one of the team and they will make sure you get a list of the job, or I guess commission openings. And it's a volunteer, most of them are volunteer, and it is a time commitment and an energy commitment. But what we usually do is tell people just see what looks interesting to you, and then we try to get you on there. So I wanted to let you know that this evening I was going to spend a little bit of time talking about the jails, the Sacramento County jails, and the Mays consent decree. I wanted to give you a short, quick update on our budget. I wanted to talk a little bit about Laura's Law. I won't probably say a lot about Laura's Law unless you want me to, because there's going to be a newsletter coming out, and that's my next newsletter that's coming out. And a couple of quick updates, and then I'm hoping I can make my update fairly quick so that we can spend time having a conversation. But I know there's a special family. I think there's some special students here. Paulette, are you Paulette?
So Paulette is sick, but I'm her daughter.
Oh, okay.
I'm Alicia, and this is my kid Penny, and these are our friends Peyton and AJ and Tiffany, and we're homeschoolers learning about civics right now.
So, yeah, I'm so excited to have you here, and I want to thank you for bringing the students here. I think that's the best, so awesome. We have students who actually, the high schools send students and they're required to spend an evening with me in North Highlands. We have this, and then afterwards they have to get their picture with me and show that they actually were here, and they have to get a signature. But I hope you learn, and I hope if you have questions you participate. Feel free to raise your hand. Everyone else will. And so thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
And also, I would like to, if it's okay, if you could leave your contact with my staff. I would like to connect with you because I'm a daughter of the American Revolution, and I'm the president of the American History Essay Contest, which is older. They're older children, but if you know homeschool community,
I'm a school principal.
you might be able to help me. Okay. Okay, so about May's consent decree. Does anyone here know about the jail situation? The May's consent decree really came about, I think it was over a decade or two ago, that there was a law passed in California that required us to improve the conditions in our jails. And I'm not really sure, it was before my time. I'm not really sure why we didn't do this sooner. I think it was back in the 90s. But we were in a position, just as several other counties in California were, where the Prison Law Office and the Disability Rights of California and other law firms decided to come together and start suing counties because they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing, which was improving conditions in the jails. And so we embarked on this process, a negotiation with them through mediation. And we did that over several years. And we got to a point in 2017 or 18 where they were getting impatient, and they basically said, if you don't find a way to settle, we will take you to court, and it will be much worse than what we're looking at now, and you will lose, because every other county we've been to has lost. And so that was basically the landscape that the situation we were in. And so we went to mediation, and at the time, Supervisor Kennedy, who's an attorney, and Supervisor Peters, who was representing the 3rd District and had a lot of experience with the county. She'd been there for a long time. They were the ones that we, as a team, chose to go into the mediation. At the end of the day, we arrived at, the decision that we needed to provide some segregation and restrictive housing. In other words, there was concern that there were a lot of people who had mental health issues or medical issues in our jails that were in the general population, which wasn't appropriate for them. There was concern that we weren't providing enough out of cell time. People were in the cell all day, and that was inhumane. They wanted us to do suicide prevention and disciplinary measures. And basically, I want to say, over the past decade, because of all the policies that have been passed at the state level, we're in a position where they've emptied out the prisons, the state prisons, and we have more hardened criminals with longer-term sentence that are ending up, instead of what our jails were built for was 1 or 2 years. Now we have inmates for, up to 13 years. So they're aging in our jails, which means we're providing services like dialysis. For the criminally insane, it's really important to, make sure that they have appropriate care. And so at the end of the day, we came up with a plan, and the last thing that they wanted us to do is fix the ADA, which you might have heard, that law passed in California and make it ADA. Well, ADA means, for disabled people. What does that acronym stand for?
American Disabilities.
Yeah, thank you. I'm 66. I'm doing the best I can. So we actually hired a company to come into our jail downtown and do a study and find out what it would cost to make that cement tower ADA qualified. And it turned out that if we did that, we would lose 30% capacity in our jail. And so it became a real expense, because we were then going to have to build another tower, and we had a lot of people who were, there are people who believe there's no place in the world for jails. I actually think there are people who they shouldn't be in the jail. They should be in a mental health institution. I actually agree with them on some of that. But I do think there's a place for jails to make sure our communities are safe. Anyway, long story short, they advocate for not making the jail bigger. So at the end of the day, we were backed into a corner in December of this last year, 22, whereby we were threatened with a federal, what do you call it, federal receivership. If you don't do something by December, we will take it and we will decide what needs to be done, and you will pay for it. And so we had to do something. And so it was a 3-2 vote at the board, and the board voted for a 3-story tower. It would have, a mental health unit and a medical unit and an intake at the bottom, a more appropriate, better intake center at the bottom. And so, and as the dust settles, as we correct the, disability,
Americans with Disabilities Act.
ADA, we would actually reduce our beds in inmates by about 400. So we're actually slightly reducing the size of the population, but the conditions in the jail would improve. And so we moved that forward in December, and I'm excited to say that's going to be good. Now, the other thing that we're being pressed on is they want us to reduce the number of inmates in our jail, estimated 1,000. If you remember a couple years ago, our board voted to stop cooperating with ICE, with illegal immigrants who had committed a crime and it ended up in our jail. And what we were doing is, the ICE would call through the computer system, they would detect that there was an immigrant. Our police or our sheriff don't ask whether or not they are a citizen. They don't even question that. But through ICE, they could see that they were in our jail, and they would call up and say, and we had a cooperative relationship so that they could serve their sentence, and then as they're being released, ICE would be on the other side of the door to take them into custody. That was around $6.5 million a year that when we voted to not cooperate with ICE, we lost. But it was a couple hundred inmates. I voted to cooperate with ICE because I believe that our national government, their top priority, if you look at our Constitution, is national security is one of their top jobs that they're supposed to do for us. And why wouldn't we cooperate with them? Why wouldn't we want to hand it over in a secure situation like the jails instead of having them rummaging through our neighborhoods to find an illegal criminal immigrant? And there were other compassionate reasons why I voted the way I did. I can't remember what the vote was, but I voted no. I voted no on discontinuing that contract. So I think at the end of the day, the latest on the jails, I don't know if you heard, was it in the news about the sweatshirts in the jail? There was a situation where we had someone call in for public comment today at our board meeting because they were advocating for sweatshirts because it's so cold. It's like 40 degrees and they're cold in that jail. It's like a tomb. And the sheriff did agree to give them sweatshirts in our jails. So I'm really happy about that because I think that is a humane thing. Personally, I think that's what we should do. So I'm excited that our sheriff had that heart. About our budget, this year our budget, our new county executive is super smart. And she knows how to, knows how to work with 5 different board members that have all these different, constituencies and opinions. And so what she does before budget period is she comes up with a resolution that, identifies our priorities as a board through our budget process. Our budget process generally goes, the staff are working on it early, gathering information in their different departments, and then we work through stuff until May, and then in June we do our first initial budget. And so, but in the beginning of the year, she comes up with a resolution, and the resolution has a list of all our priorities. This year, our priorities, we were unanimous in agreeing that our priorities would be the same as they were last year. And basically, county compliance obligations and policy commitments, maintain existing service levels on existing programs. New programs need to focus on critical and urgent needs, homelessness, housing, mental health, substance abuse. We're really not, we're working on the safe stay shelters and housing for homeless, but we're not just doing that. We're putting an extra effort. I know Brenda will be happy about this, that drug rehab and mental health services, inpatient services for drug rehab, and programs that are transitioning people out of the jail into a situation where they're surrounded by good people and a program, and they help them get a job, and they have a better chance at success as they reintegrate back into society. During the last year or so, I guess the last three years, we've had a small but mighty group who have come downtown and advocated to be part of the budget process. They want to participate, and they think that the community should have more of a voice in the budget process. And so what we did is the last couple of years, we had workshops to teach people about the budget, and anyone who was interested could come. They went to all the districts. I went to one in my district, but there weren't a whole lot of people there. But this year, what we did is a focus group, and we hired a company by the name of FM3. And FM3 did a small focus group, and they felt like this would be, even though it was a small group, it would be a good indication of the general sentiment in our county based on the categories of people that they selected. They selected 8 people from cities, 10 people from the unincorporated, 8 low income, and 10 not so low income. And the feedback that they got was that they enjoy Sacramento. They have concerns about the cost of living. They have intense concern about homelessness. Also, increased crime and violence were key concerns. One thing that I noticed about the study that I thought was really interesting was there was a shift in public sentiment. You know, in the past, it's always been the 2 top priorities are homelessness and housing. This year, it was public safety and senior and child resources, homelessness, and housing. So the public safety, and there was almost no difference. So it was like they could almost be, they were almost the same. So it wasn't a huge shift, but it was a shift. Public safety took number 1 this year, which I thought was kind of interesting. At the end of the day, I want to tell you that I'm really concerned about the situation. There's just so much money, there's just so much one-time money. Last year our budget was balanced on $183 million in one-time money. And when you do, that's like one of the first red flags in budget management, and people who manage multi-million-dollar budgets know that. That you want to make sure you're not starting new programs that are going to require ongoing costs, because that one-time money may not be there. You want to make sure that you're not setting yourself up for a problem. And so that's my big concern. My big concern has always been that we didn't have enough reserves, but I'm probably super conservative because I've been self-employed most of my life, and I've lost a lot, and I have baggage. I know I'm one of those people now that wants to be debt-free and have a plan B, and in life, that's just how you do it when you're on your own and you don't expect to count on someone else. So I'm pleased that our county executive, Ann Edwards, is focused on trying to increase our reserves. Over the last couple of years we have, and that's a good thing. But at the end of the day, I think our budget is around $6.5 billion. We wouldn't go very far with the reserves that we have, and we would, it wouldn't be long before we were figuring out which programs had to be canceled, or if there was something catastrophic that cut our revenues. how many know about Laura's Law? I think I've talked about Laura's Law, just a couple, okay. Hi Don. Laura's Law is something that I did not support when I was first elected in 2017. There was a group of women who approached me, who asked me if I would support this assisted outpatient treatment that called for, it's for severely mentally ill people who are in a situation where they don't really know they have a problem. They're so far, their psychosis is pretty so far gone. We've seen those kind of people. They're in the streets rocking or talking to themselves, or they might be a drug addict, drug-induced psychosis, or schizophrenia. And if they could just get on their medications, they might have a chance at a life, you know. My concern at the time was civil rights. I thought, who determines when someone is mentally ill or challenged? Who determines when someone, we need to take their, take over and make their decisions for them? Someone could walk up to me and say, I think you're nuts. And, that wouldn't be fun. I could imagine that, But then one of my constituents in Folsom, who has a son who's schizophrenic, asked me to read a book, and I forget the name of the book now. It's been a while back, but I did. I said, yes, I'll read it. She said, I think it'll change the way you feel. I read the book, and what I learned in the book is that there's this condition called anosognosis, which is a medical condition whereby someone does not know they have a problem, and they cannot make a decision to fix it if they don't know they have a problem. It's important to note that the assisted outpatient treatment is a series of interviews with psychiatrists and social workers and experts, and they go through all these interviews with different people, and they're offered treatments based on what people, after those interviews, they determine what's the problem and how can we help them, what kind of services can we wrap around them. And the final thing is the judge with the black robe, and they call it the black robe effect because it seems to have a positive impact on actually making them feel like they have to, oh, the judge said I have to do it, so I have to do it. But in reality, we cannot make someone accept medical treatment, and we cannot force someone to take medications, or we can't lock them up. But this isn't that. It's an outpatient treatment in hopes that we can get them titrated on medications or off the drugs. What they're saying in San Francisco, they have this program, and we went and visited, met with them, and they told us about their program. They basically said that 30% of the people that end up in the assisted outpatient 6-month treatment end up crossing over out of homelessness and into an environment where they a sustainable situation where they can take care of themselves and where their quality of life is better. This is something we voted on a year and a half ago, I think, and it took time for the staff to get all the pieces. It's a lot, it's expensive, but it's important to note that homeless people cost us around $59,000 to $60,000 a year on average, and the most severe homeless, the high-cost homeless, can cost taxpayers a little over $100,000 a year. Those are the ones that are in the emergency room. It doesn't take long for an ER visit to just be $30,000 to $50,000 in one visit, so you can imagine how that happens. So if you get the most severe homeless, they are also the most vulnerable out there. They are the most vulnerable out there. And so it's not right to just leave them dying in the streets. We have to do something for these people that cannot take care of themselves. That's my opinion. So I think, I'm hoping this will be good. I've met with Judge Brown, who's going to be presiding over the court, and he views this as like a team effort, and there's a whole team that's wrapping around a person and trying to help them. So we'll see how that progresses. I don't know if you knew that our airport in Sacramento was voted the best medium-sized airport in the United States. So that's pretty exciting, and we just voted to invest another $1.3 billion in upgrades to enlarge the airport, because it's to the point where we have more destinations and we don't have enough capacity for all the companies that want to go more places, and so we're growing, and it's getting even better. I wonder if, I can't believe no one's asked a question. I normally have a question all the way through. Are you going to make me talk through all this?
Most definitely. You got the floor, ma'am.
Okay. Does anyone have a question? No questions. Okay.
I want to get into this AOT stuff, you know.
Okay.
At one point, people that couldn't help themselves were institutionalized. We decided that was violating their rights. So now we're going to put them on the streets. We have this assisted program where they're going to come in, you need this pill, here's your pills, go forward and be better. Those pills have street value. Are we just going to send them out the door with a month's supply of whatever?
I don't think it's like that. I think it's more of a, let's figure out what is the situation, because there's 1,000 different ways that someone ends up on the streets with their life out of control. It could be, we have a catastrophic heroin, meth, fentanyl epidemic going on. And those drugs combined cause psychosis. I know, by personal experience, not my own personal experience, but by personal experience, I know. I know people that I love that are suffering, or have suffered, did suffer. There's a lot of different reasons, so it's complicated. And for some people, it's just a matter of, like one woman I knew, she told me that her husband died and she snapped, and she went out of the door in her house and crawled under the trampoline in the backyard and just laid down. And she was homeless ever since, until she went to the Gathering Inn in Roseville, and they helped her. Clean up, they had clothes, they had dentistry, they had services. This is, pardon me? The Gathering Inn in Roseville. And we have all that was sort of the inspiration around all the HARTs, the Homeless Assistance Resource Teams, which you have one in Orangevale. They're doing an amazing, are you part of it, or?
Well, she knows.
Yeah, she knows all about it. I could just tell right away. But I think what I wanted to say is, there's people who, this thing about how they you remember one flew over the cuckoo's nest, and I remember that. I was there, and they made it seem like those hospitals were bad. Well, they were bad. The conditions were bad. They should have made the conditions better. Instead, they closed the hospitals and sent people home to their families, to rest homes, to the streets, to the jails. Those 4 things, and that's where they are still. And so in our society, I think in society it's up to the community, as a community, to help be the wind under the wings of our loving neighbors. Okay, that's what we should be, but we live, where is it? we live most of our life in this. It's not good. We need to think about that. I think we need to think about that, because if we were spending more time recreating and looking outside of this, we might see that someone's crying or someone had a problem, and what can we do to help? And we all have problems. I mean, life is stressful. This homeless situation, no matter how much money we pour at it, it's getting worse. And I personally believe it's a policy. It's driven by policy over time that started decades ago, beginning with, actually before they closed those hospitals, it was the federal government who decided that they would not cover it in the insurance. They wouldn't cover that mental health stay in the hospital in the insurance, and it was passed to the states. And that was the beginning of the end of the support behind who's going to pay for this. And private companies are in the business to make money, and so who's going to do that? So we have to figure out how we're going to pay to, and how we're going to, I think we're kind of beginning to do some good things. One of the things that I supported and the entire board supported this year is, it's called, it used to be called Arrive Alive when we were young, those of us that are old. And we remember they show those videos of what happens when you drive and drink and drive. And they showed the bloody car and the death on the highway, and scared us into saying I'm never going to do that. They're doing that about fentanyl now. They're going to the high schools. I went to one of them in Folsom a couple weeks ago, and it was amazing. There were about 1,000 kids in this gym, and they had a wall of big poster pictures of kids who had taken fentanyl and died. And they had a parent who, they had all the personal stories, and they told the kids what it is and how street drugs look just like, drugs from the pharmacy, but they're not, and they can kill you. One pill can kill you, or it can addict you to a point where you can't seem to escape it. And the stories were very compelling. So we're working on that, and I actually requested additional funding for that and for other drug programs. Our borders, I don't know what to say. Our borders are wide open, and they're coming across the border with these drugs, and our people are hurt by that. So I think that's something we need to talk to our congressman about. What are they doing? That's a national security issue. Major national security issue, in my opinion. Yes?
I have to partially agree with some of this discussion that part of the problem with society and government that we've been doing for decades now has been reacting to the problems of mental health and drug addiction, social things, through various laws and various punishments. But we have been failing a lot on those interventive techniques that you're talking about introducing more now. And that's really one of the biggest challenges that we need to face in society, is intervening before the problem occurs, rather than just going and covering up and trying to go and fix the problem afterwards.
Or just sticking them in a box. If they have a roof over their head, they'll be okay. Well, that doesn't solve anything, really.
No,
not really.
Though with that, I do agree with the housing first concept of getting those boxes, because it does help the intervention and healing better. But at the same time, you need intervention at the same time, rather than just sticking them in a spot and then just hoping they'll get better by themselves.
Right, and I think it's important to note that it's not illegal to be homeless, number one, but public space is for everyone. And when you have citizens that are paying, that go to school, get a good job, they have a home, and then you have homeless people who are taking over the public space, there's needles, it's not safe, that's not fair. It's not fair to allow them to overtake the public space so that parents don't feel comfortable taking their kids to the park because they might get stuck with a needle or whatever, So there's two sides to that, and I have compassion for both sides.
Rather than the problem of just they end up anywhere because we haven't provided spaces and we haven't provided entry. But yeah, I agree. But again, some of these programs coming up are good programs to go and try and intervene before it gets to the point of
I think what would be really good in our society is if we could find a way to be the wind under the wings of small business people instead of driving them down. Small business people work so hard, but the trifecta of failure, taxes, regulation, litigation, is killing small business. And when you kill the dream of small business, you kill the dream of home ownership and American freedom. And individuality, and creativity, and, the list goes on. And so we can't, we have to decide if we want to be in a free country or a socialistic country where we have our little plate and we walk over and wait for someone to give us our bread, I'd rather be free and work hard all day and fall on the bed so exhausted than to be waiting for someone to give me my handout. That's my feeling about the way things are with our policy in California. Who else has a question? Oh, yes. Did someone else have a? Oh, yeah.
What about the speed, or the group at the speed, about the transfer of these inmates that are coming from prisons to the county jails? Why is the governor putting pressure on the county where we put these guys now in a jail instead of a prison system where we're closing down 4 prisons? So they're giving all these people to the county and let them take care of the burden on the taxpayers. What's going on with that?
Well, I can tell you at the county level, the cost to have someone in the jail is around $175 to $200 a night. That's the cost to the taxpayers.
Right.
And so I think that's the logic behind trying to defer or redirect people who are not a danger to the community out of the jail is not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. And we do have some pilot programs that we're working on right now with probation to do just that. And they're under, of course, supervision and all that while they're waiting for their trial, basically. But there's actually been mandates that are requiring us to reduce the population to the point where we're reducing it based on their latest crime. And they might have in the past committed worse crimes, but their latest crime wasn't so bad, so they're released. And so we do have an uptick in crime, and I think it could be because of that. Did you have something?
I was going to mention Prop 46. I think Prop 46 drove a lot of that. If all you're convicted of is a property crime, you'll find it difficult to find your way inside of jail. Enforcement, and that's why you see these, what was it, the broken windows kinds of crimes and, petty property crimes on the increase.
I'm trying to remember, AB 109, Prop 46, Prop 57 or 9, all of them were basically changing the way we look at crime, changing felony down to misdemeanors, allowing people to go into a retail place and steal up to $950 worth of stuff and that's a misdemeanor. And now we have serial thefts. I'm really grateful for Senator Nilo, who is now coming out with a bill, introducing a bill that will is it repealing it, or is it rolling it back, or?
The bill that you're referring to is with Assemblyman Hoover, AB 75, that's going to...
I'm sorry, I thought it was Nilo. It's with Hoover?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
So that's what the property fine of $950. So right now, it's being charged as a misdemeanor. So what Assemblyman Hoover's office wants to do is, if this said individual is committing these crimes more than 3 times, it won't longer be a felony, it'll just be the first time. So if they commit the act the first time, it's an automatic felony. It's what he wants. But, I mean, it's still early in the legislative session, so just have some hope that possibly that this potential bill can become law.
If it could, it would be good. We do have a super majority, which means we don't have a real balance in our legislature. I'm not sure it's great on either side, to be honest, but just saying. Yeah, I mean, we'll hope, we can only hope for that. Yes?
Why couldn't we take some of this funding that I keep hearing the mayor and supervisors asking for? Why couldn't we start a program in Sacramento County? I know they closed up all these mental facilities, as we call them. But why couldn't we take some of that money and invest in another mental facility and start our own facility and using part of that funding for that rather than so-called small houses? I saw an example coming up here tonight on Hazel Avenue. I don't know where the owner of that pile of stuff is located, but it would take a truckload to haul it away, and it's parked beside a park bench or a bus bench right on the road. Most of those homeless are there, I believe, because they say they don't want housing, so they're homeless by choice, in my opinion, if they don't want housing. And they certainly seem to find a lot of junk to collect.
I know.
And I'm not too sure if I was homeless and lived in one of those little houses they're talking about, and my neighbor was one of those junk collectors, I'm not sure we'd get along. You know what I'm saying?
Well, there's a difference between the junk collector and the homeless, but you're right. There's people that are homeless by choice, and we've always had homeless people. And if you go tour the Sacramento History Museum, we are the River City. They were teaching, their kids were sitting by the river and they were teaching them, homeschooling them by the river 100 years ago or more.
Well,
it's always been homeless in Sacramento.
I had a business down here on Greenback Lane. There was a homeless guy living in the bushes behind me. And I went and talked with him and said, keep it clean or you're gone. And so we had a rapport.
Oh, you're so good, Bob.
And I would actually bring him some food occasionally. So he wasn't eating everything I saw him eating out of these garbage cans. And I said, now keep an eye on the place for us at night. If you hear anything, call the sheriff. I mean, we used that kind of an operation.
Yeah.
Now that guy was one of those who could go into a shelter very easily. And those are the kind of guys that I would like to help first, rather than, I used to have season tickets to the Kings. From the parking garage to the arena, I had to walk through quite a bit of homeless area. There were some I offered to help. There were others that I wouldn't even walk across the street to say hi to, because I didn't trust them. They were screaming, that yelling. I was afraid to even be around them. And especially with my wife with me, I was more worried about her safety than I was mine.
Yeah,
but
you have
the
to be careful.
point is, there are some of those that are out there that need to be in that so-called facility where somebody will make sure they get their medicine every day. Somebody will make sure they do what they say they're going to do. I know people who are not even homeless that won't take their medication because they say they don't need it.
We are in the last year or two where we have exponentially, we have increased our resources to drug rehab and mental health. We are adding mental health beds. So we are trying to find ways to do that. And in fact, there's some really exciting, we have the safe stays, but we also have some other really exciting projects that are going to be sort of you drop someone off if they're on drugs, and it's a detox center there, and then they can move in the same complex to, the services they need. And then on the same property, they're going to have little tiny homes where they can stay there and still be wrapped with services, and they can slowly get them trained in a job and transition them out. So we're working on that. So, yeah, I mean, we're trying, that's an effort,
Yeah, well, you're working on that counts.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just, within the last week, I read something about Los Angeles County has either adopted, or at least there's a conversation about adopting a ban on tents. So my point is that I think it's important for jurisdictions to have a consistent approach across jurisdictions. Otherwise, there could be a big driver of driving issues from one jurisdiction.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we just couple months ago in October or November, in Sacramento County, we passed an ordinance, a critical infrastructure ordinance, and whereby we will be bringing resolutions that proclaim critical infrastructure. An example of that would be a sidewalk that on a busy street, where if they put up their tent and there's no way to get around them but to walk into the busy street, that's critical infrastructure for the public. They can't do that there. And it was a little bit, I'm going to say, moxie. I'm not going to say the word that's in my mind, but you know what I mean. It was brave what we did, because there's people already who have threatened to sue us because homeless people have rights. But our parkway is critical infrastructure. The places where children walk past them to go to elementary school is critical infrastructure. And we're going to be bringing those resolutions forward soon. Our attorneys have carefully reviewed that ordinance to really show that our intent is consistent with the Ninth Circuit Court decision that had determined you cannot move them unless there's a place to send them. We're trying really hard to get these safe stay communities up, so we actually have a place to send them, where they have a little, it's not big, it's like 10 by 10, and it's got an air conditioner and a heater and a locking door, and they can store their stuff in there, and they can know they're sleeping in a safe place where no one will hurt them. I know people who I've tried to get into some of the Heart homes, shelters, that were good people, but they would rather sleep in their car because they were not going to go and stay in a room with a stranger and go to sleep. They knew they couldn't roll over and go to sleep with a stranger in the room, and they didn't care how much I told them they'd been vetted. They said, well, good, why don't you go? I'm not going. I'll stay in my car. So, just saying, safety, people, have dignity. Everyone has dignity. Anything else? Does anyone have any, we have a couple more minutes. Are there any announcements that anyone wants to make regarding community, something going on? Come on up.
I'll be very quick, but the library is currently going through our facilities master plan. We do this about every 15 or 20 years, and there is a meeting taking place this Thursday in the Jane Wise Community Room at the Orangevale Library. So it'll be from 5 to 7, I have flyers here if you need them. We're just looking, we don't want to plan our future facilities in a bubble. We want the public to come and tell us what they want in facilities. So if you're interested in any sort of civics, this is Civics 101 of getting input from the, from the public. So this Thursday night from 5 to 7, I welcome everyone to come, and I do have some flyers here if you're interested. So.
And I'm really excited because I'm the chair of the Library Authority in Sacramento County this year.
Absolutely.
That's exciting.
Thank you.
Yes.
So for Bruce, maybe this is asking too much, but are there any, hopefully those flyers have some read-aheads so that we could attend that meeting prepared to discuss what's within the realm of possibility. I mean,
Will there
we all
be an
have our
agenda posted?
Yeah, there's a, just like Supervisor Frost said about hiring a company, there is a company that leads this discussion. So when you come, there'll be information provided, and it's really just your thoughts on what you think the libraries are going to need going forward. We have a nice brand new library that's got some great stuff, which is from the old plan, but there's new stuff that people might think, going forward, we need these things, and that gives the library something to consider. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I like those kind of meetings because you get to share everything that's important to you.
I just wanted to make an announcement.
Sure, yes.
So we've been talking a lot about homelessness tonight, and I just want to say for everything you think you know about homelessness, there's about 5 other stories of a homeless person who got there in some other weird way. So I just want to encourage you to always, look at the big picture. There's a lot of ways people get to homelessness. There's a lot of reasons people stay homeless. But here's my announcement.
I think that's precious. That's true.
Yeah, agreed.
The Community Foundation of Fair Oaks and Orangevale did some fundraising to hire a homeless outreach navigator for the Fair Oaks, Orangevale area. It's something we've wanted for a couple of years. We finally found a way with Josh as the new executive director of the Community Foundation. We found some funding, and we have a part-time navigator, outreach navigator, that does outreach. Josh just went and grabbed some flyers that we have, but does homeless outreach, helps them get connected to services, links those who want help, because you can't go over and make people, get help who don't want it, but links those people who want help with the steps to change their life. So it's huge for our community. We have a few flyers here. Clint just got started. He's half-time, but you can reach out to him. We still encourage you to reach out to Hart because there's some things that we can handle that the navigator doesn't need to do, but we have this resource now, and it's very exciting.
And he's very open to meeting with them too. He's
Very great. He's great. And Sue, I'll be happy to send you that file.
Oh, if you just email it.
Yeah. But there's just a few that we have. I didn't want to usurp her meeting.
You never usurp. Bring flyers if you want to anytime. Look, History Project brought a ton of them, I noticed.
Oh, okay. I'll put these on the back too.
Can I mention that?
Yeah, yes, please do.
Okay. Yeah, the History Project, we had just got an agreement with the Parks District for a museum location for Orangevale for the community. One of the things about community is being able to understand where we came from, learn from our past mistakes and successes, and to continue being a strong community and have our identity as Orangevale. So we have flyers out here if you want to help support that or find out more information, reach out to us.
Where's it going to be?
Yep, that's our question.
Good question. It is going to be, it's going to be the cottage, which is just down the hill on the side of Hazel.
First building to the north of this.
Okay, so okay, this
First
one
building
right
to the
here.
north. Yeah, the little parsonage from the old church. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So yeah, we're excited. We just did the walkthrough, and you just have to work with the county.
We never have problems with permits at Sacramento County.
We'll have David call you.
Actually, no, our department is, like, they're doing so much to try to improve the process. If you have problems, call our office, because we'll try to help. We'll try to walk through it with you. Sometimes our office can make a phone call and they'll, it'll get their attention, so if you have problems, please don't hesitate to call any one of them. That's going to be your best bet. Yes.
I'm going to speak about Mark, wherever he went. He's a bit modest, but he has just been the best thing to happen to the History Project. The man has a vision that's never ending. But one of the first things to know about this History Project, it's our History Society. We've never had one, that's new. Our focus in going into this was to look to our youth and to help them find a way to connect with history locally and maybe from there. So between David and Mark and Jiu-Jitsu and the Tot Grant, they were able to purchase what they're calling the Mobile History Encounter. And it's a big screen, and when you touch it, it opens up stories about Orangevale.
Oh.
It is just really neat. As far as I know, there's none in the area. This is big technology.
Wow, that's
that this
great.
team has found. So it's going to be at the library
March 18th.
March 18th in the daytime. So you'll want to come by. All of you, big kids too, come and touch it. But I just want to rave on what a team of people has walked through the door to do this. It's just phenomenal.
Well,
and I would invite the rest of you to come and help us.
Can you just say, like, in like three words, three short, what's some special things about Orangevale history? What will they see there? Is there a school? Is there orchards? Is there...
Well, we started out as an agriburb, not a suburb, but an agriburb. We were planned and bought to be a growing region. And so that explains some of the differences of our agriculture-rural mindset in this town. And we have farmers come from the east to come for opportunity. We had businessmen with money come to make some fortunes. Randolph Hearst built a house here. It's still standing. That's a whole new story. So I've taken more than 3 words.
I love history, so that's interesting.
We, among other things, we have a YouTube channel. All of the presentations are on it. We're interviewing our oldest residents. Go to YouTube, Orangevale History Project. I must say we're a project, we're not a society. Orangevale doesn't need a stuffy society. It's a project.
Their Facebook group is very good. We read a lot of things on your Facebook.
Oh,
They have
that's
a
so
newsletter,
great.
newspaper, I'll sit down.
That's awesome. Thank you. And I just want to add one more in case you didn't know. The Sacramento County is waiving adoption fees for veterans now. So if you're a veteran and you want a new little puppy or kitty or whatever, armadillo, they'll waive the fee. There's a new program for veterans. So with that, I don't see any other hands raised for announcements. Oh, yes.
When you said about your newsletter, is it in the Orangevale News also?
It is in all the print papers. What you'll get in the online newsletter, email newsletter is it gives the main article and then it gives special events in that area or little added stuff, and you'll get an announcement about our meeting.
Right.
But yes, it's the main article goes in all the print.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you everyone for coming.
Short order.